Have you ever felt invisible in a room full of people just because you couldn't have an effective conversation? Raise your hand. Okay, looks like a lot of number of people. Thank you. How many of you would like to learn how to have an effective and engaging conversation in next 15 minutes? Raise your hand again. I'm asking you to raise a lot of hands. Thank you. Is there anybody not interested in that? All right. I come from a very small hometown in Amethi, Uttar Pradesh, the place which is politically famous. And I went to school when I was 7 years old. My grandfather wanted me to work in field because he was against my education. While my mom, she wanted me to study and do something big in life. Now, due to this conflict, we were ousted from the family. So I came to Delhi in 2006 with just one ambition. I wanted to support my family financially. I didn't get good growth in the company for next 8 years. I would feel ignored in the meetings, wouldn't get the attention and respect I deserved despite working hard. I remember an incident that happened in 2015. I was sitting beside a glass cabin listening to an interesting conversation that my super boss was doing. And I was thinking and anticipating this is about my promotion. And you know what he said? सब कुछ तो ठीक है, बस ये बोलता नहीं है. Everything is fine, but Tauseef doesn't speak, and that is why we can't promote him. I felt devastated. But I reminded myself of two things. As humans, we change because of two reasons. Either someone motivate or inspire you to change, or someone criticize or insult you to change. In my case, it was secondary. So I decided to improve my communication skills. I traveled to different parts and places and learned from the top minds of the world. And after a few months of hard work, I felt I could talk. In last 15 years of my experience, I have learned a lot with respect to communication skills that I'd like to share with all of you guys today. So that you can also have an effective and engaging conversations and get the attention and respect that you deserve. How many of you would like to have that for yourself? Raise your hand. All right, okay. A lot of people. Thank you so much for showing that energy. Now, before I jump into the solutions, there are certain problems that we simply cannot neglect that stops us from having an effective conversation. So the number one problem in our way that stops us from having an effective conversation is a fear of judgment. Now, this fear leads people to believe that others may think bad about them if they open up and say something. A classic example could be, a lot of us don't even ask questions, even when we need the answers. Just because of this fear, what would others say? A recent study shows that 70% of hopping people experience communication apprehension, which affects their personal as well as their professional life. So most of us feel that our voices don't matter. We hesitate, we stumble, and often we remain silent. The second problem that stops us from having an effective conversation is a lack of clarity. At times, we don't even know what we have to say to the other person. And forget about that. We don't even know what do we have to achieve out of that conversation that we are going to have. Because of this reason, even if we know a little bit, we don't trust it. And hence it stops us from having an effective conversation. And last but not the least, number 3, the third problem is lack of skill. We have a resilient mindset, we have a lot of positive mindset, we have a lot of clarity as well, but inability to express the message stops us from having an effective conversation. Now, I want you to turn to your partner, look into their eyes and say, I too faced it. Right? Thank you. Now, I'd like to share a template with you that you can use to have an effective conversation in next 15 minutes, of course. By the way, this is not an atom bomb. All right. A recent study in 2022 by Journal of Communication and Cognition, it says that poor thinking skills leads to poor conversational skills. Let me share an example with you. How many of you know how to cook well? Like, okay, people at the back, a lot of you. Okay, I'll come to you on them. If I ask you to prepare a dish, but you never made one, you will struggle, isn't it? But if I give you a recipe, you'll come back to me and say, Tauseef, yeah, I can do it. I can give it a go. Similarly, if I give you a template or a mental model that will give the structure to your thoughts, it will give you a lot of clarity and confidence. You will say, I can talk because I can think. Now, when you say, my words are all over the place, in other words, you're saying my thoughts are all over the place. Remember this. Your speech can never outperform your thoughts. Now, I want you to use this mental model, which I'm going to explain, before having any critical conversation with your boss, with your principal, with your client, or anybody for that matter, but there is an exception to it. You can't use it. This is not applicable to your wives and girlfriends. Jokes apart. Now, let me quickly explain this model, and I want all of you guys to take a mental note. Probably it might be helpful for you. So, in atom model, A represents the audience, which simply means that you need to know who you need to talk to. And in most of the cases, you'll come back to me and say, Tauseef, I know who I have to talk to. But the most important thing that you got to understand is what is their seniority and what are their interests. It's not about the human. As some of the gentlemen talks about emotional intelligence, it's not about the humans, it's about what are their aspirations. What do they want? Give them what do they want. So know about the audience, their interest and their seniority before you have a conversation. So who you're going to talk to is audience. Number 2, T represents for topic, which means what are we going to talk about? And in this T, we have 2 questions. What is the topic? And also learn a little bit about the background, the context. So you connect the dots. The second last is O represents the objective. Many of us know what we have to talk about, but we hardly know why we have to talk about what we have to talk about. Right? So here are two questions for you. What do you intend to achieve out of that conversation? You might say, Tauseef, you're giving me a lot of work, but that's a harsh reality. If you don't do this preparation before any critical conversation, you might fail. And I don't want you guys to fail. And the second question in the objective is, what do you want them to do? According to the book, First Minute Conversation by Chris Fenning, it says that if you don't tell people what do they have to do in first 20 seconds, they will lose a track of what you're saying. You'll have to keep repeating yourself. So, what do you intend to achieve, and what is it that you want them to do? That's the objective. Be very clear on that. And last but not the least is the method. Many of us have the clarity. Many of us know who they have to talk to, but they lack skill. I wish I had a lot of time to share about how to deliver a message effectively, but in the interest of time, I'll just talk about one distinguishing factor that you can use to engage the audience, and that is energy. So how would you demonstrate and exude energy out of your personality? So number one, make sure you take care of your body language. Whenever you sit in an interview, in any important conversation, sit straight. Use your hands. Remember, your body speaks even before you speak, but your hands speak even before your body speaks. So use your hands. You look like a human. And make sure you have a good eye contact. Last but not the least, speak with a little louder than your average volume. This way, you'll demonstrate energy. And energy is the number one tool to engage the other person, and that is what you want to achieve. So, this is about atom model. Now, the people who use this model reported to me that they were able to have more effective and meaningful conversation, which were 80% better than before. Now, struggling to have an effective conversation is a common problem. But with active listening, giving structure to your thoughts, understanding the perspective of others, you all can find your voices and have a meaningful, effective conversation. Remember this. Having an effective conversation isn't about saying what you understand. It isn't about speaking what you already know, but it is about saying what others want to hear. So starting today, I challenge you to have one meaningful conversation. Listen, think, ask, speak, and see yourself grow. Thank you.